Welcome friends, my name is Sukesh Marla and today we are starting a very new series especially focused toward the freshers which we call as Become a .NET Developer. You can find the complete agenda of the course in my blog, that is www.sukeshmarla.com. Okay, so let me share today's agenda with you. Today we are going to cover what is .NET Framework, how compilation works in .NET, what is IL code and different parts of the .NET Framework. Today we cover nothing but the basic concepts of the .NET Framework. These four points are the most basic points in the .NET development or .NET interviews and all. So it's must before dive into the actual development phase, we will be used to with these concepts, or we will be used to with its uh, fundamentals. So first question is, what is .NET Framework? So what is .NET Framework exactly? .NET Framework is nothing but is a platform. .NET Framework is a platform which consists of set of some libraries, some utilities, like GAC utility is there. Okay, it's a set of library utilities, some compilers, okay, which we can use for developing, building and deploying various .NET applications like Windows applications, WPF applications, web applications, WCF services or web services. So this is about the basics of .NET Framework. .NET Framework is nothing but it's a platform which we can it is nothing but a platform which we can use for developing, building and deploying various Windows, WPA, web and WCF services and web services, various .NET applications in short. Okay, it's nothing but it's a set of various tools and utilities and some libraries. Okay, we will come to know later in the stage which all libraries, we will see some of the utilities available in the .NET Framework provided by the .NET. We will see some of the libraries, we will use some of the libraries, and we will develop some Windows applications as well as some web applications as we move further. The next important fundamental which we should be clear about is how compilation works in .NET. Now, compilation in .NET happens in two stages. In the first stage, a normal .NET code is compiled into something called as IL. The process starts like this. Developer choose one of the programming languages like C#, VB.NET, ASP, or we can say F# or VC++, or any of his choice. Okay, developer choose one of these programming languages and write a particular code. This code is being compiled into IL by compiler. Okay, for example, when a code is written using C#, CSC, there is a compiler called as CSC which take this code and compile it into the intermediate language. We will look into this intermediate language in the next step, but for now, for instance, just understand that whatever code we will write using C#, CSC compiled it into the IL. The same task is done by something called as VBC. VBC is nothing but a VB compiler. If we write some code using VB.NET, then that code will be compiled into IL because of this VBC. VBC take that code, compile it into the intermediate language. Similarly, there is separate compiler available for VB.NET, VC++ as well. Means every .NET language come up with some. Every .NET language has its own compiler which compile the code and which compile the code and does the and convert it into the necessary required and convert it into the IL code. So the next step is okay, now we understood this, right? We have something called as some code which is written in C#, VB.NET or VC++, which is compiled into the IL by respective compilers. Now this compiled code, now where the CLR comes into the picture. CLR take this compiled code which is IL and pass it to the something called as JIT. Now JIT convert this IL to machine code which can be read by the operating system, and which it will execute the exe. In short, developer write a code which is converted into IL by compiler, which is converted into the final machine code by JIT, and this machine code is now understandable to OS, so OS can execute it. Okay, so why this IL comes into the picture? This is the first point. Now there are 2 points which we have to consider about IL. First, this is half compiled code. Okay. Second, this will be same for each and every language. What it exactly means? It means, consider I have something like this. In VB.NET, I write a program which will accept a number, which will accept a string from the user, which will, if he convert it into the integer, he doubles it and display it in screen. The code will be like this: dim I as string. Okay, next what it does is I equal to console dot readline. Next what he do is dim number as integer, n equal to integer dot parse I. Okay, this is the code which we will use in VB.NET. In C# we will write something like this: int I, this will same here, this will be replied as int n, and this will be changed into n equal to, now integer is changed to int dot parse I. Now we can see lots of differences between in these two code. Okay, in VB.NET we are using a separate syntax to declare a variable, whereas in C# we are using a separate syntax. But now what happen is CSC compile this, there is CSC compile this code to IL, and VBC compile this code to IL. Now when you look into the IL code, it will be same for both the codes, both the source codes. That means now there is no two source codes. Now there is a single source code which is IL, intermediate language. Okay, this is the first special point about what we call IL. Okay, that will be same for every language. The second point which we should understand about this IL code is this IL code. Now when we are developing any application, consider I am developing a calculator application for a particular client. Now I am completely unaware about what kind of computer client has, what kind of operating system is installed in his system, what kind of processor he has, what kind of RAM he has. I am completely unaware about that. So okay, while developing and building the application, I am not aware about these specifications about computer. So that and machine code required by this application is completely dependent on this specification. Okay, so that's why this compiler converts the source into IL, this IL is taken by JIT, and JIT at runtime means what exactly happen is when application is developed, when we first deploy, when we first build an application, what we get as NDXE, that is nothing but IL. We deploy IL to the client machine, and when we double click the IL, the JIT convert that IL into machine code, which is actually getting executed according to the machine configuration. So because of this JIT, the user is not required to take not required to think about, or not at all required to care about the client's configuration, because it's the JIT who took all these cares, whose JIT who's responsible is to convert the IL code into the machine code. So this is about the compilation work. Now the next thing is, what is this IL code? We just spoke about this IL code. IL code is nothing but a half compiled code. Okay, when compilers compile this compiler compile the source code written using CSC and VB.NET into something called as IL, which is half compiled, which is then transferred into the client machine, where JIT take the next process, take the control. Okay, the important point is JIT get the control over this IL only because of CLR. CLR take this IL and transfer the control to JIT, and JIT converts this IL into machine code, which is a machine specific code. That means, consider that if the compiler directly converts your something into the machine code, then it would be something like it should be something like you are supposed to take your source code to every client machine. In every client machine, you should take your you should take your source code to client machine 1, build it, okay, you got it. Now again take the source code to second client machine, build it, okay, now you got it. Okay, now it's not like that. You just build the application, you get the IL, take it to the client machine. Now it's up to the CLR and JIT to generate the machine code. Now the fourth important option is, that is, we should understand the fourth point we should think about is, what are the different parts which are involved in the what we call as in the .NET framework. Now, as we said in the top, we had something called various languages like C#, VB.NET. Now we are talking about .NET architecture. Okay, below it we had respective compilers like CSC and VBC. Now this compiler converts it into IL. IL is taken by something called as CLR. Now CLR is the execution engine for .NET code. This IL code converted into some machine code, and it will be executed inside this CLR. Okay, CLR does some important tasks like garbage collection, converting IL to machine code, because CLR transfer the control to JIT. Got it? Thread management, code access security, and many more. Okay, the CLR is everything in .NET world. CLR, or common language runtime, which is the execution engine for .NET code, does some important tasks. Okay, now CLR consists of some. Now we will talk about this individual concepts, like what is garbage collection. We already covered how this IL code is converted to machine code. We will see what is mean by this code access security. We will cover these two topics later in the series. Okay, now we have to discuss two more concepts. That is, now this CLR consists of something called as CTS. Now many times it happens the code which is written in the C# need to be accessed in VB.NET. That means, consider we have created a maths library which contain some functions like add, multiply, division and subtraction. This library is completely created using C# code. Now we are creating an application using VB.NET, and now we want to consume this class library here. In short, we want to use this class library in the VB.NET application. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Why? Because both the languages, all the data types are used in both the languages are derived from common type system. Int in C# and integer in VB.NET both are derived from system.int32 in common type system. Means there is something common between both C# and VB.NET, and again with all the languages. So why they can communicate with each other? Now there is a subsystem involved in this CTS. Means CTS consists of one more thing called as CLS, that is Common Language Specification. C# and VB.NET. Code is written here, converted into IL, taken into CLR. CLR consists of CTS. CTS means common type system, common type system. All the .NET types are derived from this CTS only. Now CLS consists of CLS. CLS means common language specification. It defines set of rules which every .NET compliant language must follow. What is mean by this? That means there are some rules, okay, written in this CLS. Rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3, rule number 4. Okay, these rules has to be followed by C# as well as VB.NET if they want to communicate with each other. For example, CLS says put a proper casing for your variable declaration. For example, in VB.NET both A and A are considered as same variable. There is no case sensitivity in VB.NET, but in C# both A and small a are considered as two variables. So while writing a VB.NET code, we should take care this, that we are not creating, sorry, we should take while writing C# application, we should care that if we declare two variables with same name but with different casing, then it's not possible for VB.NET application to consume that library. So there are certain rules which has to be followed by all the languages if they want to communicate with each other. This is all about CLS. We learned what is .NET Framework. .NET Framework is nothing but .NET Framework is nothing but it's a platform which consists of set of libraries, set of tools and set of compilers and lots of other stuffs which we can use for developing, building and deploying various .NET applications like Windows, WPF and web. Then we see how .NET compilation works. .NET compilation is a two-step process. First it's compiled into IL, then it's been converted into machine code by JIT. Then we saw what is exactly, why this exactly IL is required and what is IL. IL is nothing but half compiled code which is required because at the time of development and building we are unaware about the final we are completely unaware about the area or the place or the machine where the application is going to be deployed. We are completely unaware about the configuration of the system. So it's must that we should need something which is completely independent of configuration. This IL is CPU independent, this IL is configuration independent, this IL is operating system independent. So this IL can be transferred to any environment where .NET Framework is supported. Then this application, in the second step, this IL is converted to something else in machine code. Then we saw various parts various parts in the .NET framework, or we can say we understood, we learned what is the architecture of the .NET framework. We have C# and the VB.NET and other languages at the top. Below it we have various compilers, and then we have CLR. CLR take this IL and transfer it to the JIT. We have CLR consists of CTS, common type system. All the .NET types are derived from the CTS. CTS consists of a subsystem called as CLS, which contains a set of rules which has to be followed by every application. Other than this, in this .NET framework, we have something called as BCL, that is base class library. Now, if you want to communicate with the database, it's not required to write each and every line, means how the communication works and in depth. If you want to write if you want to read or write any file stored in the local disk, you are not required to write a complete C level coding. There are some classes available like file and all. Just create object for these classes and use it. So these are some reusable libraries are available in the base class library in the .NET framework itself. We can use them and proceed with our work. So we are not required to waste in the time which in something which is already been done. Hope all of you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have any kind of query or questions, you can mail me at sukeshmarla@gmail.com, or you can put comments at sukeshmarla.com. You can also find me in Twitter and Facebook in the respected URLs, and I hope all of you will be there in the next session also. Thank you very much for being so patient. Thanks a lot.